Jordan was just telling me about how his favorite recording artist of the past decade is Miley Cyrus,
I think that's a bit of an overreach, but I did just talk about Party in the USA by
which you
Miley
like.
Cyrus.
You like the
Yeah,
song.
absolutely.
We had this coach, John, at the gym that used to work for us at the gym, and he used to play that song all the time to the point where I was like, John, I
I
need
need you to
you to
turn this off.
stop doing that. That and Justin Bieber. And I don't get man, I don't know if it's because I'm just like I grew up like a metalhead and I like country and stuff like that, but I just can't. I don't get it. I don't understand how another grown
Oh,
man can like Justin Bieber. I don't
I mean,
understand it.
I don't like Justin Bieber, but I have always said my Spotify looks like if somebody stole your debit card and was like going across the country shopping at all these weird ass places. That's like my Spotify. Like if Spotify reached out and was like, "Hey, did somebody hack into your account? Because this shit's all very different." I'd be like, "No, that's just me
No, I
and
get
my
that.
5 year old."
I'm with you. I'm into all kinds of different music, but just like Bieber and Miley Cyrus and things like that,
Oh,
I don't get it, dude.
see,
I
but that's
don't.
what I'm saying. I'll have like some pop on there, and then I'll have like Behemoth or some like satanic black metal from somewhere over the pond that's been jailed for ripping up a Bible. I like it all.
Dude, those guys are nuts, man. They're like some of the my brother when I was a kid had this book about all of the like
All the
Scandinavian black
black
metal
metal,
bands, and it was
it's
just like
wild.
those guys were horrifying, just
Yeah,
terrifying people.
yeah, like killing each other and just all sorts of crazy stuff.
It's awful.
I like some of their music though.
Some of it's fun. I would like to now segue into talking about hunting turkeys in California. So, uh, hopefully you can make it over the pass and come into California from Nevada. I really hope that can happen. So,
Me too.
I don't know. You said the road conditions are good right now,
Yeah, I checked
or
them yesterday. Yeah, they weren't. It wasn't anything too crazy.
okay,
It was closed one direction because the semi had crashed because it was wet, but it wasn't like
crazy.
tons of snow
Well,
the other direction.
fingers crossed that it's cleared up by next Saturday. I'll tell you what, the funny thing is that the story I wanted to talk about when we were driving in the first year that we went there, um, Leanne had shown me before we went there sight unseen, and Leanne had showed me, pictures of the land, like videos and pictures of the turkeys, like that were all through her ranch. And when you're driving somewhere, you kind of expect to see some of the game like that you might hunt, especially. And so we're driving across, we get through the valley in California and we start coming back up into the foothills and we're looking around and there is not a turkey to be seen anywhere. You maybe think you're going to catch some out in the fields. Like I catch them out in the fields here in Virginia all the time. They're starting to strut a lot here right now. And so we drive, I don't know, a couple 100 miles, don't see a turkey. And so everybody's getting kind of nervous. We're like, man, maybe we flew all this way for nothing. And we get there and it's just like, I've never seen so many damn turkeys in 700 acres in my entire life. They're just everywhere. Like they're up on top of this knob and one's strutting, and they're over here and one's strutting, and you hear the gobbles and it's just echoing off the mountains. And it's a really cool place. And so what we learned is, at least in that region, maybe I can only talk about that specific hunk of ground in California. And if there's a listener that's from California that knows this, but if there are no pine trees, you're not going to see turkeys. There are all these little oak trees. I don't remember what kind of oaks they are, but like all these little scrubby oak trees all over the place. And there's a bunch of those on the ranch. But if they don't have big pine trees to roost in, you're not going to see the Rios there, which was a very a very good lesson to learn, and also a reassuring thing. You drive all this way, you're like, man, I haven't seen a goddamn turkey. Because like when you drive into like when you drive like across western Nebraska and you start to get into Wyoming, and you just start to see pronghorn everywhere. And so when you're going to hunt pronghorns and you see them, you're like, man, like, all right, there they are. There's one. There's a group of 10. There's another 5. And you're like, okay, well, it just gives you this reassuring feeling that even if where you're going to be hunting, you might not see them, but it's just like
They're there
they're there. And
somewhere.
just when you fly 5 hours in an airplane and then drive 2.5 hours in the car, and you're like, oh man, I don't know. You know what I mean? So,
Was this
but
a mistake?
the
Yeah.
pine trees, man, you need the pine trees because that's where they're roosting.
I know nothing about turkeys, so I totally have to go on your expertise.
Well, yeah, I don't know if I would say expertise, but that is what I've learned about hunting Rios for 2 years now in Central California. So,
It looks totally awesome. And it is funny to drive somewhere. And I guess I've thought about that somewhat, mostly with antelope hunting, because you can see them when you're driving. Um, but everything else I hunt, it's like maybe it's up there, maybe
oh
not.
gosh, yeah, yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
But yeah, when
Especially
you're
deer,
oh yeah, you're
especially deer.
mule deer, they you can't even see them sometimes when they're on the hill in front of you.
Well, that's
Um,
when Christian and I were in Montana 2 years ago. He killed that buck, and I think the whole time we were in Montana, we were there for a week. We saw four total.
isn't that awesome though? And he killed
Yeah,
one.
yeah. He killed well for
Just
us
takes
being
one.
back east. He killed a really nice one. So it was,
That was a nice deer, period.
yeah, dude.
I think I think
It
a
is nice. I think
dark
it's great.
horned timber buck is cool.
Well, some of the Western folks would, I think, maybe be like, well, that's an all right one, but we were like, man, that thing's
Yeah,
awesome.
show me your wall of 200-inch deer,
Exactly right. Yeah, but dude,
pal.
the dark mahogany on those antlers, and it was
Oh,
really
they're cool.
awesome.
They're super cool.
Yeah, it's a cool buck. Um,
Very.
well, training stuff today. A couple things we want to go into. I know we both wanted to talk about cooling down,
Hmm.
and so you know what? I don't. Let's let you start with that. Let's start with Jordan Wilshire's Jay Wilshire
uh,
from Nevada, Reno, Nevada.
Remo Sriracha. Cooling down. What do you want to the
I
who, the
think it's
what, the
just
why,
I think a
or
little
the
bit all
how?
of it. I mean, yeah, like why we need to do it and what it does and a little bit of the process, I think is a really
Yeah.
good, because people don't do it, man, you
No,
know?
straight up, don't do it. It's just one of those things like everything else until people start doing it for a while. I don't think they understand the value, or unless they understand the why. So cooling down before you are leaving the gym, the idea getting you to shift back into that um, you know, parasympathetic state where
Mm.
you're getting toward the place of adaptation. The training is done and it's time to shift gears and get everything going that way, because we've harped on this, but the all of your all of your work from your training happens during your recovery, and that's why we take recovery so seriously. um and so starting to get to that place as soon as you can after training um is a good idea once you look at it that way. So for me, training at home, I've messed with a lot of things. I don't necessarily have to change the music. Sometimes I'll change the music,
Oh, yeah,
depending on what I'm listening to.
yeah.
I'll put on something, I'll turn off Party in the USA and I'll put on something else. Um, and usually I put something over my eyes or even just my arm if I have to. And then some type of breathing strategy. For me, I've found it doesn't really matter what it is, but I'll lay on the floor, box breathe or something like that, and I'll get my heart
Well,
rate down.
explain box breathing real quick, because I don't know that everybody knows what that is.
Box breathing is if you imagine a box and one side of the box you're breathing in, the next side of the box you're holding that breath, and the next side of the box you're breathing out, and then the next side of the box you're holding that breath, usually like for 4 seconds or
Yeah.
so. Um, and you can do a pattern of some type, but the whole point is to kind of control your breathing, which is in turn going to help harness your heart rate, and overall just kind of relax you.
Yeah.
So I'll do that and I'll get my heart rate to where it was when I started training. Um, and even if I'm not necessarily looking at my heart rate, but I'll get until I feel like very relaxed. And I mean, you can almost get to where it's like you want to go to sleep. And
Yeah.
that's kind of where I try to get if I'm not wearing a heart rate monitor. Usually I'm wearing a heart rate monitor though, and so I'll shoot for that pre-training heart rate.
Yeah. I was going to
Um,
say the main goal is to get your heart rate back down to where it was before you started warming up.
yeah. So that's and it doesn't take very long, a couple minutes.
Yeah.
But that's typically what I'll do. And that's just become my routine. Just kind of lay on the same spot on the floor. And I find that a pattern helps too. It's almost like putting a kid to bed. You have this pattern to where they know to go to sleep, and you have this pattern when you cool down. And I feel like it reinforces kind of that.
Oh yeah, because your brain starts to have an expectation from the environment. Absolutely. Yeah. The we at the gym and um typically how I coach it is that when you do the breathing, box breathing is great, but it seems to help you, from what I understand, the longer exhale. If so, like say if you breathe in for 2 seconds, inhale for 2 seconds, and exhale for four, it tends to help the vagal nerve inhibit sympathetic activity more than if the breathing is even. So like having just even a moderately longer exhale seems to help. So we coach that. Rhythmic movement helps. So like I'll put the link to the YouTube video that I just did for us in the show notes. And one of the things we do is quadruped rocking. So like taking yourself lower to the ground from standing, taking your body out of gravity, like lowers your heart rate, all of that kind of stuff. And doing some rhythmic movement starts to calm yourself down. So like rocking back and forth on your hands and knees. And as you rock back, breathe in. As you rock out, breathe out. Man, I got confused for a second. I don't know how, but something happened there where I wasn't doing okay. And then like child's pose or something like that with a 2 second breath in, a 4 second breath out. And then we do like 90 hip stretches. And that then we take people the whole way down to their belly and have them either look at the floor or close their eyes and then do the same breathing cadence. Because you would be surprised, and I'm glad that you brought that up, like how much visual stimuli can matter in that.
Mm-hmm.
So like, for example, all of our old the first two iterations of our gym, we had a wall that was painted camouflage, but in like red, black, like those kind of colors. And I remember when Bill came to our gym, Bo Hartman came to our gym for the first time. He was like, man, that's a really smart idea for charging people up and getting them ready to train, because it's a very like the aggressive colors, the patterns, all of that kind of stuff kind of stimulates you for training. But he's like, I wouldn't have people look at that when they're calming down. And so like when I did massage therapy, for example, and like manual therapy, it wasn't like I didn't do like Swedish or like rub and tugs or anything like that. It was like athletic. Don't look at me that way because um it my room is lavender. I painted it lavender. So people would come in and just having that kind of color would tone them down. So, but anything like that starts to take your body closer to the ground, light stretching, breath cadence that's either even like yours or slightly longer exhales, and just focusing on the breath is going to help you cool down. And another thing to keep in mind that we're talking about the nervous system effect, which is really important because it starts to say, okay, we can shift parasympathetic and we stop mobilizing resources and start allocating them to recovery instead. But also another thing to keep in mind is that when you train, your blood pulls in your muscles. And so the cool down allows you to redistribute that blood more evenly throughout your body, which is also going to lower your heart rate and your blood pressure and stuff like that, and start helping you recover faster. So walking out and just jump into the next part of your day, like when you're super toned up, like first of all, your brain's not going to be in the best place to transition and move on to the next thing. And then also you just not starting that recovery cascade is going to be difficult for recovering from that session. Then also getting ready for the next session.
Yeah, I think that's a good synopsis of that very often overlooked activity.
Thank you. Thank you, Jordan. Thank you, Jordan. Thank you for
I
your vote of confidence.
yeah. Well, it's one of those. It's just like everything else. How do you convince people to do it, right?
They have to feel it. They have to see,
Yeah.
you know,
Like,
like,
how do you convince them to that it's going to make a
how is this
difference?
valuable? How's it? I just worked. It's like, how is this valuable? You got to feel it, man. Because I'll tell you, like, younger me didn't cool down. You know what I
Well,
mean?
no, oh, me either. And well, a lot of training motivation kind of stuff is the opposite of that.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like kick ass, pumped up, you know, it's like, but the people we have now, they understand recovery, how important recovery is.
Yeah.
And so for most people, if you're like, hey, this is a recovery tool, that would shy away from it if they understand how important recovery is. They're like, oh, cool, another recovery tool. I'm totally going to employ that. And it's
Yeah.
easy. It's so easy.
You know what else we got? I got a question about on Instagram was about caffeine because I said about removing your caffeine from your workout, like keeping it kind of
Oh,
separate.
yeah, yeah.
Because I said about how I think pre-workout is a bad idea as Jordan slugs his coffee. Pre-workout is a
I
bad
love
idea.
caffeine.
So do I. It's so good, but I just make sure I drink it in the morning and I keep it away from my workout. So for a couple reasons. So first of all, caffeine raises your body temperature. And so especially for a conditioning workout, when your body temperature is going to raise, it's going to limit your performance. And so that's like why a lot of times you see people take pre-workout and then they go do some kind of intense conditioning and then they throw up because their body temperature got so high. And that's why that happens. It also just limits your ability to um, control your heart rate, all kinds of stuff. Like that jump in your body temperature is not good for your training. And the second thing is if you stack caffeine in really close to your workouts, it's harder to tone your nervous system down after the workout. And so starting to shift from sympathetic back to parasympathetic gets more difficult because you have all this caffeine coursing through your body. And so that's another one of those are the two big reasons to say, like, if you're gonna drink coffee, use caffeine, whatever it is, like give yourself a couple or a few hours before you train to drink it. I mean, you're still going to get the performance benefits from having the caffeine, the alertness, like the effect on your adenosine receptors, all that kind of stuff. But like, keep it away from your workouts so you can recover faster and so you can actually perform better. So your heart rate's not through the roof and your body temperature doesn't go crazy.
Yeah, I mean, caffeine's a hard one for me because I love caffeine.
Oh, I'm not saying don't drink it. I have 3 cups of coffee every morning, man. So
But like you're saying, I think it's also part of the same mental train of thought. Like you got to get super pumped to work out. Just
no.
the whole thing, like I got to get pumped up. I'm not pumped up enough. I got to start. I asked somebody that at work. I was like, why are you drinking coffee right now? It was like 4 o'clock. I'm like, that's not a good idea. You're not gonna sleep good. It's like, well, I gotta work out later, so I gotta be like pumped up. I was like, okay.
Well, here's that's a good marker. So a couple things. First of all, it's far more impressive and far more beneficial if you can go in and perform with your workouts without having to expend all of your emotion to get it
No
done.
matter what. Yeah.
Yeah. Like just I don't even and sometimes I do because it's fun, but most of the time I don't even train with music anymore. I just want to know
Oh,
what's going on in the old dome. I just want to like I don't give myself that stimulus anymore. I just don't, and I might sound like a crazy person or like I'm
no.
allergic to fun, but that's how I train. But you also have to consider, if you can perform without having to jack yourself up, that has way more carryover to everything else that you're going to do. Because it's like, I think I said it in the Instagram post the other day. Are you going to lay down behind your rifle, like jack to the gills, like before you shoot? Because that's like the worst fucking idea in the world. You know what I mean? Like, you're going to be
Yeah.
calm. You're going to try to keep your heart rate down. You're going to control your breathing. You're going to go through your shot process and try to make a good shot. And if you're all cooked up to do that, man, you're just not going to do it. And then the second thing is, and it comes back to recovery and mood and motivation and all of these things. So if you have a hard time controlling your mood, you need to jack yourself up on caffeine to be able to train. You're not recovering. something's off. Either your workouts are, you have too much intensity throughout your workouts, you're not doing enough when you're not working out to recover. And if you have to jack yourself up to be able to train, you need to look at all these other, like your lifestyle factors or your training, and get to the point where your mood's not affected and you have the proper amount of training motivation. Like you're not going to feel like going in and kicking the world in the teeth every day, but at least so you're not like dreading it. If that's your process right now, like so you got to fix something.
Yeah. And I also think when you look at, we have folks that are doing some, I would say, largely intense stuff still. But like a lot of people that I talk to for their like, oh, I gotta get pumped up to work out tonight. I'm gonna run on the treadmill. And I'm like, why do you need
Well,
to
just
get
do
pumped
something
up
you
for
like
that?
more.
Yeah, like in what you're saying, about music, and like that's what you like. So
Yeah.
you like that about training.
Yeah.
Cool. That works for you. You like it, and you understand yourself enough to say, I don't have to rant myself up. Like I I love music, so I always listen to music when I'm training. A lot of the time, kids out there or something.
Oh, sure.
But I'm not like when I was like powerlifting, where I'm gonna listen to a certain song or do this certain thing to really get myself amped up. It's not that. And some, depending on certain workouts, I'll make choices based on, if like I'm doing eustress training, I'm not gonna listen to like anything too
Crazy.
fiery,
Yeah.
on purpose. But I still want to listen to Party in the USA. So because that one doesn't get me too amped up anymore.
Yeah. I
Um,
think I think a lot of times putting on fun music is better than putting on like intense music. So I'll put on metal and stuff for our clients at the gym when they're doing strength sessions and stuff because they like it and it's fun. But I honestly think like fun music and keeping yourself emotionally on an even keel is much better. Because when I used to powerlift and stuff, like, dude, I wanted the heaviest, most
yeah,
intense shit that I
yeah.
could, and it's like, man, like needing to charge yourself up like that is not a good thing. I was also one of my friends at the time, well, he's still my friend, but he was the VP of marketing for whoever, I forget the company that had Jacked 3D, like the original formulation.
Yeah, with
So,
Clomid in it.
dude, so I would get that for free.
Oh yeah. I
It
never got to
was
experience the gloriousness of Jack 3D OG.
it was a problem. Like I was on meth, bro. Like I had to keep taking more and more of it. And I would train so fucking hard that I couldn't recover. I just couldn't. So I would just keep taking more jacked. And you got to keep in mind at this time, I'm in my early to mid 20s. So I should be able to just like almost battle proof, right? Like it shouldn't even
Right.
matter.
Recover no matter what. Yeah.
Yeah. And I couldn't. That shit was wild, dude. Just wild. Terrifying stuff. Terrifying.
I wish
And
I would have
now,
I wish I
and
would have
now
been there.
if I have too much of a stimulant, I have like a panic attack. Like I can't, I can't handle it. So I had when I was driving back from training the operators one day. Oh God, this would have been 2016. And it had, we were busy, like growing strength faction. Like there's just a lot of work to be done. So I didn't sleep a lot. And, so I stopped at the 7-Eleven and they sold Spike there. And I used to get Spike all the time when I wrote
Oh,
for T Nation.
I
Yeah. So
remember that.
yeah. So it's a biotest thing. And I used to get it when I wrote for T Nation. And so I was like, oh, Spike, man. I remember Spike. Like, no shit. When I was younger, I would shotgun these things and then lift because I was a maniac. But so I get this Spike at the 7-Eleven and I kind of just drink it on the way home. Like, man, I got a coach today. I got lots of. By the time I got home, dude, I was like not okay. Like I was like
Yeah.
anxious, had weird shit going on. I was like, man, I cannot have that much caffeine at once anymore, dude. It fucked me up, man. So it's just I don't know. I don't even know what commentary there is to put on that, but I have panic attacks now if I had too much
Yeah, it just
caffeine.
made me laugh, like from like death metal to and a 600-pound deadlift to like, if I have too much caffeine now, I have a panic attack. What a difference a decade makes.
Oh, dude, I know. Yeah, it was like nose torque and ripping shit off the earth, and now I'm like, I don't know.
I did have a couple weeks ago I did have a C4, a small one
That
before
would
I worked
fuck me
out.
up, dude. That would fuck me up for 2 days.
I had a little one for the first time in a long time, and that was actually great. But I don't do
I'm
that
glad,
very often, so the effect is like very pronounced. Because I was
dude.
like, I'm gonna max effort deadlift today for the first time in a long time. I'm gonna have a little shot of caffeine.
Dude, it's so funny. When I was younger, I was like such a big proponent of just heavy, just lifting heavy, doing stuff. And now people talk to me and like, I'm considering powerlifting. I'm like, are you sure? Like, for
Yeah,
what? Like, I,
it fucking sucks. Don't
for
do it.
what? I can tell you that you get to the pinnacle of what you're capable. I guess not the pinnacle of what you're capable of, but you get pretty far into it, and then you just have this like, at least for me, I guess I can only speak about myself, but you have this certain nihilism about lifting, and I'm just like, okay, well, I can deadlift 615. Now what?
What next?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it like limits.
what it costs you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, yeah. Also, it's like if there's a car that needs picked up off of a baby, sure, like I have the specific ability to do this, but
Todd's your
like other
guy.
other than that, I am useless to you. You know what I mean? So
Well, I did that too, and I was nowhere near as strong as you, and I was 30 something pounds heavier than I am right now. And it was like, what the fuck am I doing this for?
yeah,
I'm not
doesn't help.
that strong. Because then you look at some girl deadlifting 600 pounds and you're like, well, fuck me. Like, she's like 160 pounds and I'm 200 pounds. And like, this isn't even worth it.
Dude.
This is not my genetic gift. Okay.
And even so, even if it was, it's like I remember I went to powerlifting meets all the time when I was younger, and I remember just looking around and like the one thing about powerlifting meets I will say is everybody's pretty cool. Like everybody kind of roots you on. No
Absolutely.
one's a jerk. Like it's just a very nice environment most of the time. But then you also look around and you're like, these are the most other than when you walk through Walmart in rural America, this is the most unhealthy group of people I've ever seen in my entire life. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
everybody's 30 pounds overweight. Nobody has any conditioning. Like they eat terrible. Like they do all these things that just drive their blood pressure up and nothing to bring it back down. And so I just, I don't know. I mean, I was never like that. I was still pretty lean the whole time that I power lifted, but I was just like, man, what are we doing? It's just to pick something up and like there's no other part
Yeah.
of life here. So I don't know. But I guess that's my I guess that's my Johnny Raincloud, and I don't necessarily think that everybody has to take that from it. But I mean, if you want to,
No, but for what we do, I think it's very relevant.
it is being strong is good. Like being relatively strong, being able to deadlift, one and a half, two times your body weight. Like if you're a
Yeah.
dude, like doing those kind of things, like being strong is good, but only being strong is not good.
Yeah. And sacrificing
Everything
everything
else,
else to
yeah,
do that. Yeah, I agree.
yeah, yeah. All right, well, let's
Um,
try. But do you have anything else? Because I think we
did you want to talk about lunges quick?
no, let's save it for another podcast. Let's
Okay.
save it for like next week or something when we have more time. But I will say I'm going to drop that link to the YouTube cool down video in the um, show notes. Always, as always, I'm going to drop the links to download our ebooks, the 5 biggest backcountry training mistakes, and our home gym essentials ebook. And then also something else we just started. I'm going to drop the link for that. Is we have a free but private Facebook group, and we're going to be dropping all kinds of stuff in there, like new ebooks. We're going to be doing Q&As. We're going to be having guests in there. We're going to be doing a lot of stuff and giving you as much training information as we can for free in that Facebook group. So I'm going to put the link to there. So all you have to do is click it, go there, and request access, and we'll let you in.
Sweet.
Jordan, I hope you have a great day, and I'm keeping my fingers crossed that the roads between Nevada and California behave, and I get to see you next week.
Yeah, me too, sir.
Well, enjoy working on your truck, and I'll talk to you later.
See ya.